Hello, everyone. My name is Joseph Kim. Today I'll be presenting a powerful Korean film titled Ode to My Father in my final presentation. So, this film was actually released in December 31st, 2014, and is directed by Yoon Jae-kyun. It has a runtime of 130 minutes, and the genre of the film is romance, comedy, war, and drama. It is also distributed by CJ Entertainment. So, more so on the film, it's a historical drama that explores Korea's post-war history through a lens of one man's life, and it offers a personal and emotional journey that reflects on the broader national experiences post-war. So, whether you know little or nothing about Korean history, this film makes it very accessible and emotionally relatable. And that's what I'll be walking through you guys today. So, a little bit about the director, Yoon Jae-kyun. So, the director is famous for creating emotional films that combine real historical events with fictional yet relatable personal stories. His other works include Haeundae, Korea's first big disaster film, and Sex is Zero, a coming-of-age comedy. With Ode to My Father specifically, he created one of the most successful Korean films ever, a movie that resonated with older generations who lived through these events and younger audiences who learned about them through their families or school. To give a little more historical context on the things that the film actually touched upon, and so to fully appreciate the film, it helps to understand the major historical events it portrays. So first, we have the Hungnam evacuation in 1950 during the Korean War. So as North Korean troops pushed south, tens of thousands of civilians fled through the port city of Hungnam with the help of American military ships. And this is actually how the film begins, a moment of chaos and loss. Next, in the 1960s, Korea's economy was struggling post-war. To bring in money, the government sent Korean miners and nurses to West Germany. These workers sent home money supporting Korea's rebuilding and restructuring. The film also shows the Vietnam War, where Korean soldiers fought alongside the US in exchange for economic aid. This was controversial but important in Korea's economic growth. Lastly, in the 1980s, the film portrays televised family reunions between people from North and South Korea. These scenes were based on real broadcasts that deeply moved the nation, and they show how the trauma of war remained even decades later. So now I'll be giving a little synopsis of the film. And so now that you guys have some of the historical background on which the film is based on, I'm going to give you a brief summary of the film itself. So we follow the life of Toksu in the beginning of the film. And this is when he is just a young boy who gets separated from his sister during the Hungnam evacuation. And after losing his father in the chaos, when he goes back to look for his little sister, Toksu takes on the role of the head of the family and is driven by his father's last words throughout his lifetime, those words being, take care of the family. His life then becomes a series of sacrifices, whether it was working in the dangerous mines in Germany, joining the Vietnam War, and as well as giving up his personal dreams, all for his family and the promise that he made with his father. This story spans from the 1950s to the 2000s and is told through flashbacks showing how the weight of history is carried throughout a lifetime, and in this case, the fictional character Toksu. So, moving on to some of the key characters within the film that you should know about. So, the characters themselves are based on the real experiences of Koreans during this time period, but are not actual real life people. So, Hyuk-soo, played by Hwang Jung-min, represents the quote unquote everyman of post war Korea. He's not a hero in any traditional sense, but someone who survives, supports his family, and endures through all the hardships. His wife, Youngja, played by Yoon Jin Kim, is a strong and supportive figure who embodies the emotional strength needed to keep a family together. His best friend, Talgu, brings humor and loyalty, a reminder of importance of friendship and shared hardship. And his parents, especially his father's promise and his mother's silent endurance, show the emotional costs of survival that they experience post-war Korea. So, some major themes within the film. So, some key themes make the film relatable beyond just the scope of Korean history. So, the first is sacrifice for family. Toksu gives up everything, not because he wants to, but because he must. This is something many immigrant or post war families can relate to. It's something that I can relate to in my life, where my family has given up so much for me to be where I am now. There's also intergenerational duty. And this is the idea that younger generations owe something to the sacrifices made by those who came before them or their elders. The third is national identity. This also plays a major role too. So, if you look at Toksu's journey, it reflects Korea's transformation from a devastated country to a modern nation as we see it today. And finally, the film uses nostalgia and memory. So, flashbacks are shown throughout the film to show how the past, even though painful, shapes our identities as well as permeates throughout the entirety of our lives. I wanted to also dive into the visual and emotional impact that this film had on the audience. So visually, the film uses cold gray colors to show war and struggle, and warmer tones for the family and personal moments shown in the film. This stark contrast helps viewers feel the difference between the trauma and the hope, as well as the orchestral soundtrack intensifying these moments. It helps us feel the heartbreak without it being overdramatic. It gives it a more genuine and authentic feel. These scenes are historically accurate, from the military uniforms to the design of the 1960s German towns, which helps to build trust within the audience and give it a more realistic and relatable experience to what we know in the real world. Moments like the evacuation, hospital reunions, and family goodbyes are so emotional that even viewers unfamiliar with Korean history are moved by them. So after watching the film and having some time to reflect, these are some personal reflections that I got from the film. So watching this film really changed the way I think about my own family's history. My family is from South Korea, and it made me realize that the stability and the comfort many of us experience today came from the silent sacrifices of our elders. And even though my family story is different, I saw my grandparents and parents in Toksu's character. A lot of the themes that were touched upon in the film were things that I noticed were permeated through my daily life. It also helped me better understand Korea's rapid growth and the trauma that still lingers under the surface. From an outsider's perspective, Korea may seem like this booming modern country, but if looked more internally, you can still see the issues and trauma that came about from the war. And most importantly, it reminded me of how deeply family, duty, and perseverance are rooted in Korean culture and in many others too. And I can see that from looking back and seeing how my parents raised me and taught me how to act going throughout my life. Why does this film matter? And why is it so important and inspiring? Well, Ode to My Father is important because it connects generations. It serves as a bridge from the older generations who experience these traumas and these sacrifices in their own lives and helps convey that to the younger generation, younger audience. It tells a story that's both deeply personal and historically vast. For those unfamiliar with Korean history, it's an emotional introduction into the hardships people endured. And it's a very simplified way of kind of showing the things that happened in Korea's history that shaped it to be the way it is now. It is also a tribute to the resilience of Korean people and to the millions around the world who've made sacrifices for their own family and country, not just those in Korea. Whether you're Korean or not, this film teaches empathy, history, and the value of remembering those who came before us.